Hi everybody, welcome. I'm recording now, and I promise it's only recording me and not you guys. Welcome to 60-minute Candlelight Vinyasa. I'm so excited that you guys are here. Today I'm going to be doing more of a yin-yang flow. We'll be doing a couple of vinyasa flows, but it won't be the entire class. And I hope you guys have your own candles that you can follow along with at home. All of mine are off screen because I didn't want to just like put a candle on the ground behind me awkwardly. But if you have the chance to move your candle, I'm going to suggest that you put it towards like the top of your mat or wherever you're going to be looking in this class in particular. So also, I am going to read our waiver to you. So in order to make these classes as freely accessible as possible to our participants, we will be using a verbal warning and assumption of risk at the beginning of the class. Participation in this online class is voluntary physical activity programs that may result in injury, and by participating, you assume the risk of injury that may result from your participation. We strongly recommend that you participate from a space that is suitable for this activity. For example, make sure that you have moved nearby furniture and other potential hazards. If you're participating in a yoga class like this one, or a class that involves laying on the ground, we recommend using a mat, or if you don't have one, a carpeted area. Participants are encouraged to stop if they experience pain or injury and should seek appropriate medical advice or care as needed. William & Mary Health and Wellness strongly recommends that each participant have an annual physical examination and follow the advice of your healthcare provider before participating, and that is the only clinical part of this whole process, I absolutely promise. If you're going to follow along on the playlist I've created, it's in the chat if you wanted to click on it if you don't have it saved already. But we're going to go ahead and flow to that. So you can go ahead and get started. And I want you all, you can start seated on your mat if you want, or you can actually start reclined on your mat because we're going to start laying down today. So whatever feels best for you. Let's figure out our candidate. Yeah. So if you're reclined on your mat, however is most comfortable for you, your hands can come to the sides of the body or can rest right over top of the abdomen wherever you'd like them. Maybe your eyes come to a gentle close, or you find a soft gaze on something up in the sky or on the ceiling. And we're going to begin this class the way we always begin class, by bringing some awareness to our breath. So I want you to inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose. I don't want you to change your breath yet. And we're definitely not going to judge it. We're just noticing our breath. Maybe that means the length of your inhales and exhales. Maybe it's the temperature of the air that you inhale and that you exhale. We're just noticing. We focus on our breath a lot in yoga for a couple of reasons. So focusing on our breath is one of the best ways to sort of kick into that parasympathetic nervous system, that place of rest and digest. It's also a really wonderful way to just sort of calm the mind down. And instead of trying to stop thinking or wishing that our thoughts would stop, I just want you to focus on your breath. That way, we let our mind know that it's okay to think whatever it is that it's thinking. All of the thoughts that are popping up in your head, they're okay. Instead, by focusing on your inhales and your exhales, you don't have to focus on all of those thoughts. They just sort of become like clouds floating in the sky. Maybe you do begin to lengthen your inhales and deepen your exhales. Still inhaling and exhaling through the nose. Maybe on your exhales, you begin to create a slight restriction at the back of your throat, almost like you were trying to fog up a mirror if it were right in front of your face. It should make your breath sound on an exhale like it's a wave crashing through the body. We call this our Ujjayi breath. Ujjayi in Sanskrit means victorious. Let that wave of your breath relax the whole body, from the crown of the head down to the shoulders and the rib cage, down to the hips and the knees and the feet and the toes. I always say that we're never afraid to make our breath audible in our practice, because I promise you're not disturbing your neighbor. But especially with a virtual class, that is very true. So your wave breath can be as loud or as quiet as you'd like it. Our challenge today is going to be to maintain this wave breath throughout our practice. We'll come back to it together, and it's okay if it doesn't feel that natural to your body, if it takes a lot of effort. Just focus on the breath, and I promise it will become easier. If you would like to set an intention for tonight's class, I'd invite you to do that now. An intention could be a mantra. It could be the reason you stepped onto your mat tonight. It could even be a person or yourself. But it's anything, anywhere you're going to draw some energy and some focus from in tonight's class. If you're having trouble thinking of an intention, you are more than welcome to join me in mine, which is the same intention that I set for my practice yesterday, which is that it is not weakness to struggle when things are hard. It's actually a strength. Whatever intention you've set, or maybe you didn't set one for tonight, we're going to take 4 long breath cycles, extending our inhales, lengthening those exhales, coming back to that wave breath that feels good to us. Maybe we keep our eyes closed at first, but we just begin to tap our fingertips to our thumb. We make some small circles with the wrists and even the ankles. We're just bringing some movement, some awareness back to the body as we begin our practice. And we're going to be doing some yin in class today. So yin is a little bit different than our yang practice, which you would know as vinyasa flow or hatha yoga. Yin really gets deeper. It gets into the connective tissues of the body, so the ligaments, the joints, the fascia. And to do this, we're just going to be holding some postures a little bit longer than we would in our yang practice. So the longest will be about 2 minutes. Not too long, but just enough that we can sink a little bit deeper than muscle mass. I'll let you know when we come to our yin postures, but we are going to start with one today. So reclined on our mats, where you're already at, I want you to inhale those arms overhead. Maybe you stretch the body, you reach up with the left hand and the right, you point the toes a little bit. But then I want you to relax the body onto the ground. And you're just gonna begin to move your feet towards the right bottom corner of your mat. Let's keep the head, the shoulders, the arms exactly where they're at. We're coming to what we call banana asana or crescent moon. And from here, maybe you begin to walk the right hands over to the top right-hand corner as well. The shoulders and the head will bend with the hands, but the stretch really comes from the hands as they move. And we're really stretching the side of the body here. So maybe you want to cross that left foot over top of the right. You can stack that left palm on top of the right here in our crescent moon. And we're just going to pause here for a few breath cycles. Maybe you bring your eyes back to closed. It's really important to focus on your breath in yin, to let the body relax. So it's doing a lot of work to hold some of these postures for a few moments longer than we normally would. So be generous with yourself. Focus on your breath and try to sink into places that feel really good and use your breath to relieve places that feel a little bit of tension. Three more breath cycles where you're at. Before, I want you to uncross the ankles if we've crossed them. And leaving your feet where they are to begin with, you're just going to move the hands and the upper body back to center on your mat. Take a full breath cycle here before you move your feet as well back towards center. Maybe you stretch the body out. Maybe you just inhale the arms to where they're at overhead, looking like you're going to press on the ceiling. Before you release them back down overhead, we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So when you're ready, you can just move your feet towards the bottom left-hand corner of your mat, as far as they would like to go before they stop. And then we pause there. And maybe we stay here. Maybe you want to walk the hands and the upper body towards the top left-hand corner of your mat as well. And we stretch the left side of the body. We have the same options to cross that right foot over top of the left, to stack the palms overhead, deepening that side stretch. And maybe this side feels a little different than the last side. That's okay. The body's not that symmetrical, actually. So maybe the side wants to take the curve a little bit deeper. Maybe you want to come a little bit closer to flat on your mat. You can make those adjustments for yourself. We'll use our breath in yin to find stillness. So find your stillness and just breathe. If the ankles are crossed, let's uncross them. We can very slowly walk the body back towards the center of our mat, the upper body, and pause for a breath cycle. Before we walk the feet back towards center as well, maybe you take that full body stretch. You can inhale those arms overhead, exhale them down to the side of the body. And then if you want to inhale those knees in towards the chest again, we can draw some big circles on the ceiling with our knees. Circling first to the right, massaging that low back. And then I want you to switch and circle to the left. Two more times. Before pausing back in center. And maybe we stay here. Maybe you want to reach on the inside of the knees for the outside of the feet and open up to your happy baby pose, looking like we're going to stomp our feet on the ceiling. We can rock side to side here as well. It's okay if this happy baby feels a little bit more constricted than when we come to happy baby at the end of our practice. We're trying to open the body up a little bit today. So we're just being very kind with it, and maybe rock side to side a little bit. Coming back towards center, hugging the knees in towards the chest again. I want you to inhale that right arm up and very gently just roll to the right side. And then press that left hand on the ground to push the body back up towards seated on your mat. Fabulous. So we have another couple options. We're going to come back to some yin postures here. So we could stay here in our easy position, cross-legged pose. Or if you'd like, you can come to fire logs, where you're just going to stack your feet on top of your knees. So that right foot is going to be on top of the left knee. The left foot is underneath that right knee. It's almost as if your legs are parallel to the top of your mat. If this is really uncomfortable, you can just come back to that easy seated position. And then I want you to inhale to find that length in the spine first. Crown of the head reaches toward the ceiling. And on your exhale, very gently, you're going to begin to tiptoe those fingertips towards the top of your mat and fold very gently over the legs. A couple of things to note here. I want you to keep that space between the chin and the chest. Honor that. So I want you to look up. Maybe your candle is in front of your mat, and so you can focus on that as you fold. So once you've folded 100% of the way, all the way down, I want you to come back about 50% until we're about at our 50% fold. And this is where we're going to stay. Because in yin, we only hold to about 50% of our capacity to try to get further past those muscles into that connective tissue. So once you found 50, I want you to pause here, focus on that candle or something in front of you, and I want you to relax and focus on your breath. Now, I don't want you to feel like you're fighting gravity. So if gravity really wants to pull you a little bit closer to the ground, feel free. But let's try to keep those shoulders out from the ears, and we're honoring that space between the chin and the chest. The gaze is still lifted. And we're just going to pause here for 4 more full breath cycles. On your 5th exhale, after your breath cycles, very gently, we can begin to press into the palms and the fingertips and walk the body back up towards seated. We roll the shoulders out once we get there. Very gently, we're going to unfold those legs and plant the feet on the ground or the mat in front of us. Maybe you windshield wiper them out to the left and to the right. Let them breathe a little bit. And coming back to stillness whenever you're ready, you're going to bring the soles of your feet together in front of you on your mat in our Baddha Konasana, or our bound angle. So this is kind of a fusion of yin and yang, because we do this a lot in our yang practice, but the butterfly in our yin is going to look a little bit different. So I want your legs to make more of a diamond shape. So your feet are going to be a little bit further away from your body than maybe in your traditional yang posture. You're going to inhale first, again, to find that length in the spine. Shoulders are out of the ears. Beautiful. On your next exhale, I want the heart to guide the movement forward. We're still honoring that space between the chin and the chest. So maybe we're looking at that candle or whatever's in front of us, and we're going to fold about halfway. And then we're going to pause. And this is where we're going to find stillness. If things are feeling tension, I want you to inhale into them and exhale. See if you can relieve them. But focusing on your breath is really how yin makes its magic work. Again, don't fight gravity. If the body wants to very slowly lower a little bit more, let it. But don't just collapse over top of your feet. 4 more breath cycles here. Still honoring that space between the chin and the chest. On that 5th exhale after your cycles, very gently we're going to walk the body back up towards seated. Maybe keeping the legs where they are, we just bring the hands behind the body. Open that heart up a little bit. We can bring the knees back together. The feet come to plant on the ground. Maybe you windshield wiper them again. And then however is most comfortable for you to come to your hands and your knees in the tabletop position, that's where we're headed next. So you'll know that you are in your very best tabletop position when your knees are stacked right underneath your hips, if your wrists are stacked right underneath your shoulders, and if you take a peek through your legs, you shouldn't be able to see your feet. The joints are all in line. And now I want you to look down at your own wrists, and I want you to replace them with your elbows. So we're just going to bring the elbows down to the mat right underneath that shoulder. Fabulous. You should be able to tap just about your elbows with your hands. That's how you know you're in perfect position. And we have a nice flat back still. Amazing. And we're just going to begin with some cat and cow. So when you're inhale, that belly button is going to come down towards the mat. The gaze lifts, maybe just a few inches in front of where it looks at. On your exhale, you're going to push the mat away. It's like a string is pulling the belly button up towards the ceiling, and the gaze goes under. Fabulous. Now move at your own breath pace. Inhale, the belly button comes down. Exhale, the belly button comes up. You round that spine. I want you to find this for 4 more breath cycles at your own pace. Feeling free to exaggerate the movements as you'd like them. You can swing the hips and peek at them over the shoulders as you breathe. You can roll the shoulders out. But we're staying off the wrists today for the most part, just to be a little kind to the body. When you are done with your 4 breath cycles, you can feel free to stay here, or you can inhale and plant those wrists underneath the shoulders. We're just going to flip that right palm so our fingertips face towards our knees while it's along the mat, and just bring each fingertip to the thumb and back again. And then roll that wrist out, making sure to go both directions. Replace it on the mat. Do the same thing with the left wrist. Roll it out. Place it back down on the mat. And I want you to spread your fingertips wide and really press into the pads of your fingertips, the pads of your palm, and also the L in between your index finger and your thumb, because that's going to protect the bulk of the weight from being on your wrist. As we're going to inhale, very gently tuck the toes. Exhale, as if in slow motion, we're going to lift the hips up and back for our first downward dog of class. Let's be very kind to the body still here. Maybe you take the dog for a little bit of a walk. You bend one knee and then the other. You sink the heels towards the mat. Maybe you bring both knees to hover just 2 inches off the mat in a floating child's pose and then extend back up. Whatever works for you. It's okay if this doesn't feel particularly comfortable just yet. Coming back to stillness when you're ready. I want you to inhale the gaze between the hands first. That's where we're going to go. Exhale, roll the body forward towards that plank position. It's our very first one, so let's bring the knees to the ground, untuck the toes, keeping the elbows as close to the body as you can, lower all the way down to the mat until we can rest our forehead or a cheek on the mat. And then pressing the tops of your feet into the mat. Feel the kneecaps lift. There's no weight in the fingertips as you inhale and just float the fingertips and the chest off the mat. You could give me a little wave. Exhale all the way back down. Same thing, press the tops of the feet into the mat. Feel the kneecaps lift. Gentle weight in the fingertips this time as you come up a little bit higher. Exhale back down. Last one, I want you to tent your fingertips wider than mat width distance onto the ground. Press the tops of the feet into the mat first. Feel the kneecaps lift. And then I want you to press up until the elbows are at about 90 degrees. And then we'll dip one shoulder to the center and then the other. However many times you'd like. Before coming back down, hands come underneath the shoulders. Fabulous. And so from this position, I want you to actually turn and look at that right hand where it's at on your mat. And you're going to replace it with your right elbow. And then I want you to turn to look at your left hand and you're going to replace it with your left elbow. And then you're just going to work until your elbows are about underneath your shoulders. We just did this in tabletop, so now the rest of our body is on the ground as well. Fabulous. If you look, your hands could probably touch the elbows that are opposite of it and then come back out. Beautiful. And then I want you to inhale the gaze up. Maybe you find your candle or whatever is your focal point in front of you. And this is our Sphinx. This is where we're going to pause in another yin posture for just a few breath cycles. This is a pretty acute back bend. So if at any point you want to come all the way down to the mat, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, we're going to try to find some stillness of the body here. Sometimes that can be helped if we move our feet just a little bit wider from where they naturally are at right now. But our gaze is lifted. On your next inhale, I want you to shrug those shoulders out of the ears. Yeah, beautiful. And we're just going to pause here for a few more breath cycles. We're trying to sink into that connective tissue. And we do that by pausing the body, by slowing it down. Breathe into places that feel pressure. Exhale to relieve them. Now maybe we stay here. Or maybe if you'd like to try a little bit more of an acute back bend, you're going to spread your fingertips wide and just leave them exactly on the mat where they're at. You're just going to press into the fingertips and lift the body even further off the mat into what we call our seal position. We're not going to lock out our elbows. So our elbows have a nice little soft bend in them. The gaze is still lifted. We're not going to be here as long as we were in Sphinx because it's even more of an acute back bend. But I still want you to keep those shoulders down and out from the ears. The gaze is still lifted. And you're just focusing on your breath. Two more breath cycles here. You all are doing so wonderfully. On that next exhale, I want you to bring the elbows back down to Sphinx. We're gonna pause here for just one more breath cycle. On an inhale, prepare the body for movement. On your exhale, you're gonna stack your palms in the middle of the mat, let the elbows come wide and relax down onto it. Use your palms as a cushion for your third eye, your forehead. And rest in this mini belly shavasana. I want you to come back to your breath here. I want you to take a full body scan. So inhale, start with the crown of the head and move all the way down the body to the very end of the toes. We did this at the very beginning of class. I want you to do it again. And you're gonna find the places that feel a little bit of pressure or a little bit of heat. Inhale to create some room in them. Exhale to let those places relax into that space you've created. Along the way, you're also going to find some things that feel great. Inhale to hug those places. Exhale to celebrate them. Just reflect on where your body's at right now. On your next inhale, when you're ready, you're just going to bring your hands back underneath the shoulder heads where we were at in our cobra. On an exhale, I want you to press the body up onto the knees and then sink the hips back over the heels for a child's pose. The forehead or a cheek comes down to the mat. The elbows come down as well. We're rounding that spine, curling it after we just extended it all the way in that back bend. So maybe we stay here in our traditional child's pose. Maybe the big toes come together and the knees come wide. And you sink the hips back for wide-legged child's pose and bring it a little bit more into the hips. And maybe no matter which child's pose we're at, you want to inhale that right hand up to the sky and exhale, thread it underneath the left in your thread the needle pose. That left hand can stay extended out overhead or can tuck back behind the lower back. But the body's just twisting open. Two more breaths here. Releasing that left hand if it's back behind us. I want you to press into that palm, fly the right hand up towards the sky, bring it back down to the left. Same thing on the left side. We're going to inhale the left arm up. Exhale, you're going to thread it underneath the right. Stretch, open, thread the needle open. That right hand can stay overhead or can come tuck back behind the lower body. the lower back. And you enjoy the twist in those shoulders after we just asked a lot of them in that Sphinx and Seal. Releasing that right hand wherever it's at, back to the mat, pressing into it to fly that left arm high, and then sinking just back into your regular child's pose. Reflecting on that intention that you might have set at the beginning of class. I want you to draw a little more energy, a little more focus from it. It's not too late to set one if you didn't set one and you'd like to now. If you joined me in my intention and you'd like to be reminded of what it was, my intention was it is a strength to struggle when things are hard. But when you're ready and your body's like, yeah, I want to move a little bit more, we're just going to inhale up towards that tabletop position, and that's where we're all going to meet. Maybe you take a few rounds of cat and cow once you get here. You can be on the wrists or we can come down to the forearms. Whatever works for you. Take 2 more rounds of cat and cow if you're doing it. Or just pause in tabletop for 2 more breath cycles. And then once we've done our 2, spreading those fingertips wide, I want you to inhale, tuck the toes, exhale, lift the hips up and back for your downward dog. Maybe it feels a little bit different from the last time we were here. Take the time to explore it, walk the dog a little bit. Coming back to stillness, on an inhale, you're just gonna float that right foot up to the sky. Bring your gaze in between the hands. Look where you're headed first. On your next exhale, that right foot is very gently gonna step forward somewhere towards that right thumb. Not really that concerned with how close it is. Let's bring our left knee to the ground and untuck those left toes. Now that right hand is gonna move to the inside of that right foot, and let's move those right toes a little bit wider than where they were at. Right toes point out towards the top right hand corner of your mat. Beautiful. So we're mixing yin and yang again here. In yin, we call this one of our dragon poses. So I want you to inhale, bring the gaze up, find your candle or whatever focal point you have in front of you on your mat. And I want you really to lift the heart forward as if you're trying to shine the heart forward. And we're gonna pause here. And we have the option to stay here, or if you'd like, you can bring the elbows down and rest on the forearms. This is much more of an acute stretch for the hips when we do that. So we can feel free to pause here. If our wrists are uncomfortable, let's come to some fists with our thumbs pointing out on the ground. That should be a little bit kinder for your wrists. Wherever you're choosing to pause, find it, and then begin to let yourself sink into stillness in it. Come back to your breath. Inhale into places of pressure. Exhale to relieve them. The gaze is still lifted. The shoulders are out of the ears. Everyone looks wonderful. And I bet you're wondering how I can tell because I can't see you, but I just know because I have that much faith in you. 5 more breath cycles here. You got it. And don't shortchange yourself on the breath cycles. Full inhales, Ujjayi exhales. On your next exhale, after your breath cycles, if we're on our forearms, just come back to the wrists. On your exhale after that, we're gonna tiptoe those feet back underneath the knees and move that right hand to the outside of that foot, frame that front foot. On an inhale, I very gently want you to tuck the back toe and lift that back leg. And with an audible groan, you're gonna, float that right leg back high to the sky and step it down to meet the left in your downward dog. Oh boy. If you'd like to take a vinyasa flow, now is your chance. You're gonna inhale forward. Exhale, either all the way down or halfway. Inhale up into upward facing dog or any of the cobras you'd like. Exhale all the way back to downward dog. And then let's bring our knees to the ground. Untuck the toes and the hips over the heels for a well-deserved child's pose. Maybe the hands come back behind the body. Reaching for the heels. And you're just gonna pause here before we do the other side. Dragons ask a lot of the body. So you're doing something that is really hard and you're doing it phenomenally because you're listening to your body. So once you've come back to your breath, you come back to your intention again if you set one. When your body tells you it's ready for the other side. And not a second before then. When you're ready. We're just gonna inhale up to that tabletop position. Maybe on our wrists, maybe on our forearms. Taking a few rounds of cat and cow here if we'd like. Remembering that we can flip the breath cues if they don't speak to us. So we can inhale the belly button up and exhale it down if that feels better to the body. And when you are ready, coming back with the wrists on the ground, spreading the fingertips wide, you know exactly where we're headed. On an inhale, I want you to gently tuck those toes. On an exhale, I want you to lift the hips up and back for that downward dog. Inhale, let's float that left leg high to the sky this time. Bring the gaze in between the hands first. Exhale, very gently step that left foot forward somewhat towards that left thumb. Again, not too concerned how close it gets. Right knee comes down, the right toes untucked. Let's move that left hand on the inside of that foot and heel toe that foot 1 or 2 feet a little bit wider than where it was before. Left toes point out towards the top left-hand corner of your mat. And we're setting ourselves up for dragon on this side. So I want you to inhale the gaze up towards your candle or whatever focal point you have. And the heart is shining forward. So notice what that does to the spine. Instead of rounding it, the heart is forward. So the spine feels like it's in line here. Maybe we stay here. Maybe we come back to our fists on the mat with our thumbs pointing out to give our wrists a little bit of a break. Maybe we come down onto the forearms here. Maybe what felt great on the last side doesn't feel so great on this side. So you find what does. It's that nice place between challenge and ease that we're trying to get to. And I just want you to breathe. On your next exhale, take those shoulders down and out from the ears. We're finding stillness because we're sinking a little bit deeper than the muscles here. We're getting into those connective tissues. We're getting into the joints. The spine feels like it's in line. And our breath is our guide. We direct our breath to areas that feel pressure. We exhale through them. Five more breath cycles. I know you can do it. On the first exhale, after your 5, come back to the wrists if we're on the forearms. Then let's heel toe that foot back underneath the knee. Move that hand to frame the foot. On an inhale, we're going to tuck the back toes, lift that right knee with an audible grunt. Oh, you're going to fly that left leg high to the sky and down to meet the right. Fabulous. Option for your last vinyasa flow of class if you'd love to take one. Inhale, roll forward towards plank. Exhale down all the way or halfway. Inhale up into upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale back to downward dog. And then let's bring our knees to the ground. Untuck the toes, either standard or wide-legged, and you're going to sink the hips back over the heels for child's pose. Maybe the hands come back towards the heels as well. And you round that spine and curl like a little river pebble. Your cool down and your shavasana are where your body really begins to thank you for the work you've done for it tonight. So congratulations, we're there. I want you to take another full body scan. Inhale, start at the crown of the head. Exhale all the way down. Pausing at the shoulders, maybe at the rib cage, at the hips, the knees, the feet and the toes. Breathe into places that feel pressure or feel a little heat. Breathe in to create that space. Exhale to relax into that space you've created. And don't forget to celebrate the places that feel great too. Inhale into those to celebrate. Exhale to let go. It's like a hug. But if the mind has tiptoed away from us on our mats, I want you to bring the focus back to the breath. We're not judging any thoughts that are popping up. We're not judging ourselves for having thoughts. That's what the brain is supposed to do, is have thoughts. So your body is working exactly as it's supposed to, I promise. You're just going to focus on your breath to give your mind a little chance to relax, to calm, to ride with the waves instead of fighting them. Reflecting on that intention if you set one. Draw a little bit more focus, a little bit more energy from it for the remainder of our class. And again, when your body is ready, not a second before, you're going to inhale back up to that tabletop position very slowly. See how slow you can go. Maybe you take a round or 2 or 3 of cat and cow when you're here, if that feels good. And then we're all going to meet in a seated position on your mat whenever you're ready. And planting your feet in front of you on your mat when you're seated, whenever you're ready, knees facing up towards the ceiling. You're just going to heel toe that right foot wider even than the mat. And you're going to heel to the left to do the same. And then peel the toes off, let the heels come out. And we're in a wide-legged stance here. Inhale first to find that length in the spine. Crown of the head reaches toward the ceiling, but the shoulders are down and out of the ears. On your exhale, you're just going to begin to tiptoe fingertips towards the very center and the top of your mat. Both toes, both feet are pointing up towards the ceiling. You're just going to fold forward. And you're just gonna stop wherever your body wants to stop. If this is really uncomfortable for the body, especially for the hips, we can plant our feet and bend the knees, and then we can tiptoe the fingertips out, and maybe that'll feel a little bit better. You can do that with just one leg if you want, or with both, or both legs can be flattened out. Toes pointing up towards the ceiling. But I want you to honor that space between the chin and the chest again at first. Keep the gaze lifted towards the candle or your focal point. And then once you have found stillness, maybe you inhale halfway up. Exhale, see if you want to sink just a millimeter closer to the ground. And maybe then you do begin to tuck the chin towards the chest and round that spine. And you notice if maybe that changes how you feel the stretch. Maybe it doesn't. Both are okay. Inhaling the gaze back up towards the candle, towards your fingertips. On your exhale, you're just gonna walk the body back up. Bring the hands back behind the body. Open the heart up towards the ceiling. You roll the shoulders out a little bit. And then you're just gonna tiptoe those feet back in towards your mat, and then scoot towards the top of your mat where you're gonna have enough room to lay back down behind you, because we're gonna lay back down. We have a couple of options on how to get there. If you have spine or neck or back concerns and you just don't really want to rock today, you're just going to lower yourself all the way down to your mat like that. But if you would like to roll a little bit, you can feel free to reach on the inside of your knees for the outside of the feet, the side of the feet with the pinky toes, and rock back directly into your happy baby. We were here to begin our class, and we're going to be here to end our class as well. So however you would like to come down to your mat, we're all gonna open up towards that happy baby. You can rock side to side, extend the legs out to the side. You can even guide the feet together, the soles of the feet, and come to a kind of a Supta Baddha Konasana here. Whatever feels good to you. Maybe you notice how different this happy baby feels than the first time we were here. Maybe it doesn't feel all that different, and that's okay. And then releasing those feet wherever they're at. I want you to hug those knees into the chest. Flex those feet and let the feet come down towards the mat, knees facing up towards the ceiling. And then walking your feet as close to your body as you can, so you can almost graze your feet and your heels with your fingertips. You're just gonna press into your feet and lift the hips up towards the ceiling into a bridge. Maybe the hands come to the side of the body, maybe they clasp underneath it. And we're just gonna hold this bridge for a few breath cycles. Two more breath cycles here. Before you exhale the hips back down towards the mat. Inhale the knees into the chest again. Maybe you rock side to side or along the length of the spine if you have no neck or spine concerns. And if there are any final asanas that you would like to take for your practice, maybe it's a longer bridge pose or coming back to happy baby, whatever you'd like to take for your practice, you can explore that now. I'm gonna come back to happy baby. That's one of my favorites. Just lengthen the legs out to the side and you can rock side to side. And then whenever you're ready and you're like, I'm good, I'm ready for my Shavasana, you're gonna let that left leg extend long on your mat. You're gonna let the right leg do the same. The toes can come away from each other. The hands can come to the side of the body. Palms can face up to collect energy or can face down to find grounding. Whatever your body needs right now. Maybe you close your eyes or you find a soft gaze on something on the ceiling or in front of you. And you're going to trust your mat completely to hold everything that you have to offer. Clear the forehead of any wrinkles. Let the tongue fall away from the roof of the mouth. Maybe the jaw even relaxes and the mouth opens. Let yourself sink into your mat. Very gently beginning to bring some awareness back to the body. Wiggling the fingers and the toes. Making small circles with the wrists and the ankles. When you're ready, inhaling those arms overhead, pointing the toes, taking a full body stretch like you're just getting out of bed for the first time today. Gently rolling to your right side, using your bicep as a cushion for your head. For the last time all together, we're going to reflect on those intentions we might have set. Letting them go if they no longer serve us. Holding them in if we wish to carry them with us. But when your body tells you it's ready, on an exhale, you're just going to press into that left palm to come back to seated at the top of your mat, where we're going to end class together. You can feel free to keep your eyes closed or open them. But once we're all here, we're going to inhale those palms overhead to touch. As we exhale them down the midline, we're going to pause at the forehead, maybe think kind thoughts. We're going to pause at the lips, maybe speak kind words. And we're going to pause finally at the heart. Maybe have kind intentions to ourselves and to those around us. Thank you all so, so much for sharing your practice with me this evening. May you all be happy, may you be safe and healthy. May you walk this earth with peace and at ease, and may you find the space to help others along the way. Namaste, yogi. Okay, so I'm gonna stop the recording.